Alright, so this demo is going to demonstrate how to do the Perfect Chocolate Chip Cookie Lab in Mrs. Martin's 8th grade class. So while we're doing this demonstration, in your notebook, you need to be filling out the food supply list if you're assistant cook and server, and the equipment supply list if you're head cook or manager. We're also going to fill out this worksheet right here that says Perfect Chocolate Chip Cookies on it. So the first thing that you want to do to fill this out is that you need to know a little bit about measuring. So I've drawn a diagram here to help you know a little bit about measuring here. Okay, so this picture right here represents a tablespoon, and it shows you that inside of a tablespoon there are 3 teaspoons, and inside of a teaspoon there's half a teaspoon and half a teaspoon, because a half plus a half equals a whole. Okay, so it's some basic measuring. Okay, the rest of it is just easy halving, but there's a couple times where we're gonna have to do this. We're gonna be measuring by weight in ounces for most of the recipe, but for the measuring spoons, I wanted to mix it up so I could help you learn a little bit about equivalence in measuring. Okay, so the first one is all-purpose flour, and it says 14.5 ounces. We're gonna half that. So your answer right here in this column for the half section is 7.25 ounces of all-purpose flour. So you're just gonna write that here. The next one is the 1/3 tablespoon of baking soda. So if I have 3 teaspoons in a tablespoon, how much is 1/3 tablespoon? A teaspoon, that's right. So we know that 1/3 tablespoon is a teaspoon, but we need to half that, okay? So what is 1 teaspoon divided by 2? That's gonna give us, what's half of 1?
1.5.
0.5 or half, because we're using fractions. So we're going to do a half teaspoon is the answer. So you're going to have a half teaspoon of baking soda. You're going to have a half teaspoon of salt, okay? And then for the unsalted butter, 4 ounces, 4 divided by 2, that gives us 2 ounces here, okay? And then the Crisco, or shortening as it's called, is also going to be 2 ounces here. The light brown sugar, 6.5 divided by 2 gives us 3.25. Very good. Okay, so 3.2. Make sure you're actually writing if it's ounce or teaspoon or whatever. Don't just write the numbers. That's important. So then the next one for white sugar is the same, 3.25 ounces of white sugar. And then if there's 2 eggs, but we're going to half the recipe, how many eggs are we going to use? 1 egg. Very good. So just 1. And then for the vanilla, it's 1.5 teaspoons. So here we have a little bit of math again. So what I like to do when I have a fraction that has a whole and a fraction as a part of it is I like to think of them separately and then add them back together later. So let's take the 1. What's half of 1? Or
1/2.
1/2, okay. And then what's half of a half?
Half.
A fourth. Very good. Half of a half is a fourth. So a half plus a fourth equals, does anyone know?
3/4.
3/4. Very good. So the answer for the vanilla is 3/4 teaspoon, okay. And then for the chocolate chips, we have 10 ounces. We're going to use 5 ounces. So that right there should be your answers to the Perfect Chocolate Chip cookies halving of the recipe, okay, because we don't have time to make the entire recipe in class, so we're halving it. There'll still be a lot of cookies though, so don't worry. All right, so now we're going to focus on getting the ingredients. Once you have all your paperwork complete, it's time to have the assistant cook get out the tray. So the assistant cook is going to grab the tray, and we got to get everything ready that we need. So let's think about what's in our unit versus what's over at the ingredient table. If we look in the cupboards up here, we could see that we have our flour, our sugar, we have our salt up here, we have the cook spray, and we're supposed to have baking soda up here, but I don't see it for some reason. Will you grab me baking soda out of there? So we're also going to have baking soda.
There's 2 in here.
Oh, that's why. Okay, so hand me the baking soda.
Oh, baking soda. I got the spray pan spoon.
Okay, so we have the baking soda in there. So if we look through our list, we know that the flour's in our unit, the baking soda is in our unit, the salt is in our unit, the butter is not in our unit, so we're gonna need to get the butter. The shortening's not in our unit, the sugar, the brown sugar's not in our unit, but the white sugar is. The egg is not in our unit. Oh wait, I did that wrong. It's a line. The vanilla is not in our unit, and neither is the chocolate chip. So the assistant cook is in charge of the things I put the line next to. So the assistant cook needs to get butter, shortening, brown sugar, egg, vanilla, and chocolate chips. And the head cook is in charge of measuring the flour, the baking soda, the salt, and the white sugar, okay? Now, since we're doing everything on scales today, we don't need to measure any of it with regular measuring utensils except for the 3/4 teaspoon of vanilla, the 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and the 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Everything else we're going to be using the scale for, well, except the egg. We're not going to do that either. But everything else we're going to use the food scale. So if we look in our drawers, we're going to find the one that says scale. We're going to get out the scale that looks like this, the white one that does not have a plug. It's battery operated. It's just kind of clicked off a little bit. Okay. All right, so now we're going to turn our scale on, and the thing about a scale is we're going to put our bowl on, but then we have to tear it out. So tearing it out is zeroing out the bowl. Do we want to count the weight of the bowl? No, we only want to count the weight of the ingredients. So we're going to go over, we grab me a kind of a big bowl out of there, if there is one. Actually, no, wait, it's in here. Okay, so we're just going to get this bowl. We're going to put it on here, and it's counting the weight of the bowl, but we don't want to count the weight of the bowl, so we have to press the button that says tear, and that makes the bowl count as 0, and then we'll only measure what goes inside there, okay? So while the assistant cook is getting the ingredients from over there, the head cook is going to stay behind and measure out the flour using the scale, and then measure out the baking soda and salt using measuring spoons as well. So now what we're going to do is think about what the assistant cook is going to do. The assistant cook is going to put their bowls out on the tray, and they're going to need some spoons in order to get those ingredients, but they're not going to bring any measuring utensils because the measuring, we don't need the measuring utensils when we're over there because we're going to use the scale, okay? So what I'm going to need to get the butter, which is 2 ounces, so I'm going to need to get a sharp knife to be able to cut the butter. Will you get a sharp knife, so it's the little sharp knife called a paring knife, okay? So, it's this one. Thank you. Okay, so we want to use a paring knife to get the butter, so we're going to put that on our tray for the butter, okay? Then we're going to need to get the shortening, and we're going to need 2 ounces of that. So we're going to need, go ahead and get a small bowl there, okay, and also a spoon. So get a small bowl and a spoon for me for the shortening. And then we're also going to need, just go ahead, we're going to, no. Everything stays at the ingredient table. Okay, so, and then we're going to need a bowl for the Crisco. So another bowl, another spoon for the Crisco, which is shortening. And then so another bowl and another spoon for the brown sugar. And a bowl for the chocolate chips. Another bowl for the chocolate chips. Thank you. Okay, so we have to review, we have our knife to cut the butter. We have our bowl and spoon for the shortening, our bowl and spoon for the brown sugar, and then we have our bowl for the chocolate chips, okay, and we'll just put the egg straight on the tray. If you want to get another bowl for the egg, you can, that's up to you, okay? So now we're just, the assistant cook is going to head over to the ingredient table, and we're going to get So we don't actually know how much we're gonna need, right? So we're just going to estimate in our minds and think, okay, I'm gonna need about 3.25 ounces of brown sugar. So my guess is that it's gonna look something like this. And if you need to come back and get more, that's fine. Or you could just get more and put the rest back later for what you need, because we're gonna be using the scale to measure it. So we're just gonna come over here. We're gonna scoop out, I'm gonna guess that that's somewhere around 3.25 ounces of brown sugar, okay? And we're gonna do the same thing with the chocolate chips. We're just gonna estimate how much 5 ounces is gonna look like. My guess is it's gonna be somewhere around that much. And we're going to need to get our 2 ounces. So if you look at this package, it's a very large package of butter, okay? And it has markings on it that have 4 ounces for each section. So we know that 4 ounces, half of that is 2 ounces. So what I'm gonna do is, this is 4 ounces, half of it is 2 ounces. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut it at 2 ounces right through the paper, okay? That's why we have the butter knife, so we can cut nice and sharp through that, okay? We want to make sure we try to get it as evenly as possible, and we're going to check it with our food scale, so if we make a mistake, we will be able to come back and get some more, okay? So put that on our tray, and then we need to get the shortening. I forgot to get the 1/4 teaspoon for the vanilla, because we need 3/4 teaspoon vanilla. Will you run and get me 1/4 teaspoon? Okay, so we're gonna just scoop, estimate some shortening here. Okay, it's probably more than what I need, but just gonna get that. All right, and then, oh, and also a small bowl, sorry. I totally forgot. But while she's doing that, we're gonna grab the egg. We just need 1 egg. I'm gonna set that right on the tray right here. And then when we do the vanilla, don't leave our knife here. Thank you. Okay, so when we do the vanilla, we wanna measure it over the tray so we don't spill on the ingredient table. I have shortening on my hands, so this is difficult for me to get open right now. Well, it's all covered in shortening now, so it doesn't matter. There we go. Okay, so now we'll go 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, because oops, see, that's why we do it over the tray, not over the bowl, so we don't mess up our measuring here. All right, so now we got everything we need. We're also gonna need 1 piece of equipment, which is the equipment. So make sure that if you're in charge of writing down your equipment list, that you have 1 tray, 4 bowls, 2 spoons, a butter knife, and then we're gonna need the cookie scoop, a 1/4 teaspoon. All right, we're gonna take these ingredients back to the unit. Okay, so while the assistant cook is getting those things, while that's happening, the head cook will stay behind and measure out everything that we need that is in the unit. The flour, the baking soda, the salt, the white sugar. Yeah, so they'll stay behind and measure out those items using the handy dandy scale over here. So we're going to go ahead and need 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 more bowls. So let's get 4 more bowls out there. I'm gonna pull out. So the head cook should be doing this while the assistant cook is over there, and the other 2 members can assist with measuring these items. Okay. So how we do this with the scale